Hi everyone. I apologize for missing the webinar on Sunday. Something came up and I couldn't make it, and so I'm making this video for you to cover the material that would have been in the webinar. We are now in module number 6, and I wanted to quickly talk about some of the problems with the with the objective synthesis paper, though in general the objective synthesis papers were pretty good and most of you are going in the right direction. You, of course, were supposed to include an introduction in your paper, and some of you did quite well with it. One thing that I'd like to see you all realize is that for the introduction for the research papers that we're going to be writing, they need to have a introduction of a question, of a research question that you are going to be answering in the paper. And so I was looking for a question that this OS paper would be answering. Not everyone did that. The big work for this module is the body paragraph unity, the part of that Scuddy body paragraph, and making sure that each body paragraph stuck with a single theme. For the most part, everyone did that, but if you didn't, I added a note about that. One way of keeping a paragraph unified is by using a topic sentence. TS represents topic sentence. And so if the first sentence in each body paragraph begins with a sentence that says what that paragraph is going to be about, and then you keep reminding yourself of that, then you can keep that paragraph unified. Most of you were able to develop your paragraphs. Some were a little weak and skinny, but for the most part you did find that there was enough information for you to to make nice developed body paragraphs. Citations also were generally in the right direction, though some continued to have small mistakes. Commas were missing, quotation marks were missing in the citations, and sometimes citations were put in the wrong place. Generally the parenthetical citation is put at the end of the sentence. The reference page format mistakes made here is in not doing it alphabetically, using the word bibliography rather than references, and not formatting it correctly so that it's not double spaced and the hanging indent doesn't look right. Also, you need to put a page break between the body of the paper and the references page, just like you put a page break between the cover page and the body of the paper. For those people having problems with that, I certainly can show you how to do that at our next webinar, which I promise not to miss. We are going to be talking in this video, and what I should have covered in the webinar was the work that's due for Module 6. The research step number 4 is the annotated bibliography. We'll talk about that briefly in this video. You need to find 5 significant sources for your research paper project, and you need to show me at least 3 of them in the annotated bibliography, though you can show me more if you wish. We're also going to be talking about using key terms in finding and searching for your articles, your secondary articles in databases, in libraries, books, on the websites, and how do you find the most effective key terms when you're doing your searches. Now here is an example of a well-formed body paragraph for this OS paper that we worked on for the first 5 weeks of the semester. You'll notice that it starts with a very clear topic sentence. The use of fossil fuel as the primary generator of energy poses grave problems to the environment. That is the topic, and then the rest of the paper in fact sticks to that single topic on the effect of greenhouse gases and fossil fuels on the environment. It is synthesized because it includes citations from 2 articles, Jones 2008 and Where the Real Jobs Are 2012. Notice that this citation, Where the Real Jobs Are 2012, notice where the parenthetical parentheses are and where the quote is and where the comma is. That makes it a correct citation. So I'd say this was a good body paragraph. If you want to pause the video, you can certainly read it. Here also is another example of a good body paragraph. This would be the second body paragraph of the OS paper. Notice that it begins with a transition. the solution to the fossil fuel problem is clear. Alternative energy sources need to be utilized. So this sentence is a transition from the first body paragraph to the second body paragraph. The negative note here is that you cannot cite a source that you've not read. This Hockfield source is not one of the sources that we read. It's one of the sources that was cited in one of the sources that we read. And so you can't cite Hockfield. You can just cite the sources that you've read. Other than that, the citations are good. It is synthesized. Here we have Jones 2008, and here we have Jones 2003. So overall it's good, except that it cited a source that is not available, that wasn't read. So the work for module number 6, the assignment for this week, is of course you've got your group discussion prompt that you need to complete, and that needs to be completed by Wednesday. What we're focusing on this week is searching for secondary sources on the web and through databases. And so I'm asking you to share techniques that you've used in the past, or techniques that you think are going to work for you based on the reading of the notes this week, on how you're going to be searching for academic secondary sources on the web, and also how you might do that in databases. But for this discussion, we're really focusing on searching for secondary sources on the web, and questions like, what do you have to be careful about when you're searching for a source on the web? That's a question you can consider in that discussion this week. And then, what have you learned from the notes about conducting effective web searches, and do you know how to cite a web source? So these are some of the things that you can discuss in the discussion, in the class discussion that's due by Wednesday evening. The blog work is due Saturday, so we're pushing it back one day, since we're not doing we're not completing the Best Work Wiki anymore, or at least for this part of the semester. And so you can hand in your blog work on Saturday. For the blog work, this will be called Module Number 6 Blog. It's a separate blog. I want you to develop a keyword list of keywords and phrases that you're going to be using to look for secondary sources on the web and in databases, and where else you want to look for your secondary sources in digital format. So I want you to develop a keyword list. I'm going to show you a technique that you can use to help you develop that by using the New York Public Library website. Once you've found a couple of articles that you're going to be using for your research project, one should be from a database and one from a web source, you need to read those articles, annotate them, and then I'd like you to summarize the two articles. You could do this in a couple of sentences. Summarize what the articles are about. Then I want you to find common themes between the articles. We've done that with the objective synthesis paper, but now I want you to find at least one common theme that you found in the two articles that you're reading for your paper, and I'd like you to explain that common theme, making sure to cite both of the articles. Include a bibliography entry for each of the sources that you're using. Now, if you cannot find a common theme with the two articles that you found, then you're going to need to find a third article. And when you look for this third article, you need to find one that is going to have a common theme with one of the two articles that you have found so far. So all of this needs to be included in your blog for this week. Okay? Again, no group wiki this week. And as soon as possible, you should get your work in for research step number 4, which is your annotated bibliography. It should be all put into one folder. Include 3 or 4 articles that you are going to be reading. It could be the 2 articles that you started with up here, plus 1 more article. And I'll show you exactly what it should look like, but basically it has the reference entry and an annotation of what the article is about. And we'll take a look at what an annotated bibliography looks like, and you're going to need 3 or 4 sources for your annotated bibliography. Okay, this will be submitted through an assignments tool in Blackboard, so it'll be submitted as a Word file, so the formatting should be correct. I'm going to go first to this and show you what the annotated bibliography looks like. So here's a sample annotated bibliography. This is one source. You'll notice that, that it begins with, you just watch my cursor here, it begins with the citation, not the citation, I'm sorry, the reference entry. Notice that it's a hanging indent. Here we don't know the name of the author, but we know the name of the institution that created the source. So it starts with the institution, followed by the date, followed by the title of the article. Notice that's in sentence case, followed by where it was published and who the publisher was. In this case, it's a government document. The next thing it follows is the annotation. Notice the annotation is indented slightly from the hanging indent of the reference entry, and it begins with a description of the source, and then it ends with how the document is going to be used in your research paper. So it's both the description of the source and how you think the document is going to be used in the research paper. Let's take a look at a second annotated bibliography. Here again you can see that it starts with the reference entry. Here we have the last name of the author, comma, first initial, the date, the title of the article. Now there's something wrong here. Right here there's something wrong. I'm covering that. So if you can figure out what's wrong with that, that's great. Maybe you want to send me an email and let me know that you know. There's something wrong right there. And then it says retrieve. Now there's something wrong here also. This is an old form of APA, and you don't need the retrieved on date. That's not needed anymore. But you do need to tell us where you got it from. If you don't have the DOI number, then you can include the database that it came from. Here we have the accession number that's included if you have it, but most times now we use the DOI number, which is explained in your textbook. That's the document number that is assigned to all sources that are printed. This is followed by the summary of the article. This is the annotated part, and again how that article is going to be used in your paper, or how you think it's going to be used in your paper, and that's the last sentence there. Okay, so that's the annotated bibliography. Now you're also going to be going through some notes, and when you're done with the notes, you know that you've covered them well if you understand the following. First, do you understand how to find keywords? Do you know what a keyword is, and can you find them? And can you use the New York Public Library website to find keywords? I'm going to show you briefly how to do that as soon as we're done with this slideshow. Do you know how to use the CUNY database and Academic Search Premier database? Can you find articles using the CUNY database? It's very easy, and I suggest if you're having problems, you might want to check one of the reference librarians or read the notes carefully on how to look up articles in the database. I've also given you links to databases on the web. These are public databases, and for those of you in the sciences and business, sometimes these public databases are quite helpful. So just to review, you need to know what a database is, and it's covered in the notes. And so I'm not going to cover it right here, but it is covered in the notes. And you then should find an article from a database, at least one article this week from a database and one article from a web source that you're going to be using for your blog work. There are different kinds of search engines. That's also discussed in the notes for module number 6. Please be aware of the different kinds and how you would use each. There's also a question here, do you know how to use keywords and phrases in looking for sources in a web site or in an internet search engine and in a database? Do you know how to use those keywords? Most of you do, so I'm going to assume that you do. When you find a source that you are considering reading, do you know which bibliographical information to collect? You want to make sure that you've collected the bibliographical information before you left the database, because it might be that you won't be able to find the article again. But with the bibliographical information, all of that, you'll be able to find the article if you need to. Also, it'll make your life easier when you start developing your reference page for your paper. Also, when you find something on the web or in a database, do you know how to save it? Do you know how to email that article to yourself? Do you know how to print it out? Do you print it out? I recommend that you print out each of your digital articles and do your annotations on the printout. So those are some of the things that you need to be aware of as you read through the notes. This is kind of a pre-reading, okay? The annotated bibliography needs to be submitted as research step number 4. You can submit it through the assignments tool in module number 6. Please make sure that it's in a Word file, in other words a doc file, or an RTF or rich text file. Those are going to work best, and I'll be able to open them easiest. I cannot open a WordPerfect file as easily as the doc file and the rich text file. Okay. Here are some other websites that are listed in the notes that deal with in-text citation. We also have some websites that give examples of annotated bibliography so that you can go and look and see what it looks like and how they approach this idea of annotated bibliography. And yeah, so all of these deal with annotated bibliographies, all these search engines. By the way, just a quick note on why we're having you do these annotated bibliographies. Many times if you're working on your master's thesis or even your doctorate, your committee will ask you for a list of sources that you're going to be using in writing your paper. And so the initial step in research is to develop a long list of sources with a brief summary of what those sources are about, and that then leads you into the reading of those sources and annotating them, which then is followed by the outlining and the writing of the paper. So in many times the first step is an annotated bibliography. We're not asking you to develop a long annotated bibliography with 30 or 40 sources. No, we're not. We're just asking that you understand what it is and that you give us a sample annotated bibliography with 3, 4, or 5 sources on it. Okay. The last thing is I'm going to be covering now the formatting, how you format your paper. Some of you are having problems in formatting, and I want to show you how to use the Microsoft Word formatting tool. It's not a paraphrasing tool, it's a formatting tool. So this word is not correct. It's the formatting tool. All right. So let's go to that next.